Well, welcome to Passage to Profit, everybody, the Inventor Show. I'm Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full-service intellectual property firm, and we are so excited to be here tonight.
So it is spring 2020. I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not a lawyer, but I do work at Gearhart Law. We are filming this on Zoom, recording this on Zoom, so please forgive the audio quality. But, we need new content right now because everybody's getting bored of reruns. So here we go.
And we happen to be recording this at the time now when most of the stay-at-home place orders are being lifted in New York and New Jersey. So I got home yesterday. I saw this on the news, and I just jumped for joy. I simply cannot convey how excited I was to see things that are maybe now hopefully getting a little bit closer back to normal. And as our listeners know, I've been dying for a haircut for over 8 weeks now, and I can't wait. I'm going to be like the first person at the barber.
Yes. So, okay, let's go straight into the show then. First, before we start talking about IP stuff, we have Gene Marks here, who is a small business expert who will be coming on. We'll be interviewing him after Richard and I do a few IP stories. And then we'll have our presenters. So IP in the news. Richard, that one's yours.
So IP in the news this is a little tad bit of information for you about the Trademark Office. They've recently reported that the number of trademark applications has actually gone down during the pandemic, which is in contrast to the number of patent applications that are being filed, which have gone up. And I guess if you think about it, new trademark applications are indicative of new businesses and new products being launched. And the thing with a trademark is you don't have to file it before you launch. You can file it after you start using it. So you don't have the same kind of statutory deadlines that exist for patents. So clearly a lot of businesses are kind of thinking about their trademark strategy. They're trying to decide, well, what is the right timing for filing a trademark? And it's one of those business activities that can be put off for a little while. And so I think that information is consistent with the business climate as it has been. So no surprise. But the advantage is that if you are filing a trademark, since there are fewer trademark applications being filed, the ones that are filed are going through at a more rapid rate. And I think it's good that if you can take advantage of that more quick examination and quicker granting and quicker access or examination by the Trademark Office, you should do that, because that means you'll get your trademark sooner, your rights will start sooner. And so if you're in that category of business owner that does definitely want to file a trademark, now is a really good time to do it.
Yes, thank you. So then we have our patent palooza. So I wanted to talk about this patent. I know that the caregivers have all been top of mind, and this one is for the caregivers in the medical community. It's by Linneus Medical. It's their third patent on this technology. And I don't know, people who are older may remember or may not remember if you're in the hospital, you're sick, but when you're on an IV line, if you get up and start moving around, it could like rip out of your skin. Well, these are the guys that invented the breakaway IV line. So if you start flailing because the drugs are making you hallucinate that they're giving you or whatever, then it'll break away instead of ripping your skin all up. So that
sounds like a great idea, but what happens to the medication if you rip off the IV line?
Well, so I think that it minimizes the effects of the spillage of medication. So it says here, it purposefully separates to minimize the effects of the damaging force and to prevent patient bleeding and the spillage of medication. So this is kind of a COVID-related thing because a lot of people are in the hospital with IV lines, but it's inventions like these that you don't really think about when you're in the hospital. And these are inventions that are cool too, because it's kind of an add-on to something that already existed. So you can invent something by taking something and just making it that much better. And so that is our Patent Palooza.
Well, that's really a great technical innovation, and thanks for bringing it up. I know that there are a lot of patients right now who are suffering from, various diseases. They need the IV lines, and this just makes it safer and probably more sanitary too.
So thank you, Linneus.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I have the honor of interviewing our guest presenter today. His name is Gene Marks, and he's a makes regular appearances on television and radio. He's a well-known columnist. He is just an expert on small businesses. He has his own consulting practice. He's been phenomenally successful. And as always, it's really an honor to have him with us this evening. So welcome, Gene.
Thank you, Richard, for having me on. And by the way, for those of you guys that are just listening to this and are not watching this on Zoom, you have to watch the Zoom video because both Richard and Elizabeth are sharing an earphone, and it's absolutely adorable to watch. I just want to say, I think it's...
As you mentioned before the show, this is due to budget cuts, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Gene, you're a small business expert, too. You work with a lot of small businesses. What do you see going on right now? This is June 2020, and I feel like people are getting ready to spring back into action. What do you think?
I think people are getting ready to kill themselves. I mean, there's only so much Netflix you can watch before you're like, we really got to get back to work. Everybody is excited to get back to work. I know that. There was a recent Gallup poll that came out that said that 8 in 10 small businesses have either fully or at least partially reopened around the country. The businesses that were hit the hardest by far, of course, were the the restaurant owners and retail stores that people were not visiting, and the ones that pivoted well were the ones that were able to provide some type of other products through other channels. If you're a retail store, you can sell online, or if you're a restaurant owner, offer takeout and delivery and things like that. But it was a far cry from the profits that we were. God, our biggest problem 3 months ago was finding enough people to work in our businesses. People were rolling along, and now it's like it hit the fan.
Yeah, and I'm so glad. I think it takes a lot of energy to run a business remotely if you're not used to doing it, and there are so many distractions, and the environment has been tough. You hear about people getting sick and having all sorts of medical problems, and there's every day on the news, there's new emergencies. And so to kind of take all of that in and yet still stay focused on what you need to do, I think has been a real challenge. It's been a challenge for me.
It's, I'll tell you what, the biggest issue I'm hearing from my clients right now. My company has about 600 clients, and most of them are small, medium-sized businesses. So, number one, everybody's terrified about liability. As you're opening up your businesses, you start telling your employees to come in, customers start coming in, and then, God forbid, somebody tests positive for COVID, and they're like, oh, we got it because we were working in your place of business. I was fine when I was working from home, and now I'm sick because I came into your office. Or same thing with customers. And so it's a big liability issue, and insurance policies don't cover this. The insurance industry pulled back from the whole epidemic thing with the last SARS. So business interruption, things related to epidemics, they're not covering. So it's a big issue, and I know Congress is going to be taking up that issue to try and limit the liability, but liability issues, I know they're big on the mind of a lot of my clients. And the other is just, what do you do about getting employees back to work that still don't feel safe or comfortable coming back to work? You have a good person, and you're like, okay, we've opened up our office. The government says we can now get back and do our thing. So come on in. And then you've got, a few, and I've got many clients that have this issue with a few of their employees where they're saying, we prefer to be working from home for the time being. We don't feel safe. We don't whatever. That's another tough issue. Do you take a hard line and say, come to work or you're fired, or do you meet somebody in the middle and say, can we work something out? It's not an easy question to answer.
Well, I feel like at Gearhart Law, we gave up that fight long ago.
You guys stay away. It's fine. It's work from home. It's all good, right?
We've had remote employees for years, so this wasn't a huge change for us. And in fact, our employees that were in the office did not want to work from home, but they had to. They prefer being around people. But to get the high quality employees that we needed, we had to go remote. And we can. With what we do, we can. We never need to meet a client face to face if we don't have to.
Although some clients prefer that. And so we want to meet the needs of them as well. And Zoom does a pretty good job, but it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same thing. But we also, I think it depends a little bit too on the level of experience of the employee, because if somebody's new, if they need to be trained, I mean, they miss a lot by not
They do.
office at just the side conversations and overhearing, people saying things. If somebody has a lot of experience and really knows how to do a job, and they're, comfortable working from home, they can be in that environment. I think it works out great. But I do think that the younger employees miss a lot of experience just not being around in the office. So
Yeah, I think the work from home thing, because so much in the news, I think it's a bit overhyped right now. I think on the one side, for employers that did not adopt it, they were forced to adopt it to stay in business during this thing. And then suddenly they realized, like, it works. All the cloud technology, the online applications, it really does. And we even, my company's a technology consulting firm and financial firm, and we've been telling our clients for years, you should have work from home policies. A lot of people resisting. And now I've got all these people calling me saying, dude, why didn't you tell me this before? This stuff is great. We can have our people work from home. So we've realized that one thing. So everybody's like, work from home, work from home, work from home. Like everything else in this world, like the pendulum swings. And I think the smarter employers over the coming months and years will realize a balance. I think it's great to have somebody work from home a couple days a week. It's an essential benefit that you have to provide. And I think younger employees rightfully so demand it, because, how dare they want to spend more time with their families and actually want to live a balanced life? Who does this think this generation is anyway? So to have them come and work from home is great. But I think a lot of employers, the smarter ones, will realize we need to have some balance. So work from home for 3 days a week. We'd like to see your smiling face in the office 2 days a week, because you lose that. My company has been virtual, completely virtual. We have about 10 employees, about a dozen contractors for 10 years now. And although my overhead is low, I am running the world's most dysfunctional company. We don't even see each other as a group, more than once a year. We don't. So, you lose innovation, and you lose ideas, and you lose culture and camaraderie when just everybody's spread out. So the social thing really is important. We're human beings. So I think there'll be a balance, I guess is what I'm saying. We'll eventually come to that.
I agree. And I do think that, we do use remote paralegals that we've never met, and it does make it harder. There's just something different about being in the same room with the person. I think, the chemicals our bodies emit when we're talking to each other, the mood, the body language, whatever it is, we need that in-person contact occasionally. And then, you do feel closer to the employees that are there with you in the building, right?
I agree. Well, considering some of the chemicals that some of my employees emit, it's better that they work from home most of the time. We try and encourage them to, not go out to clients. But I do agree with you. I think I'm just kidding. There's the human interaction is very, very important. And there have been times where I've had people working for me for more than 10 years. Sometimes I forget what they look at. It's just like it was before this, like back in January, December, like I was at a client and I bumped into a woman who has been working for me. She's a contractor, not an employee. And I didn't recognize her. I saw her. I think we walked by each other. She's like my contractor out there at my client, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Chris, isn't it?" That's bad.
Yeah. So
I think we'll head to that. But I tell you one thing though, the cloud does work. The technology stuff does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been fascinating. We have to stop and take a break because you are listening to Passage to Profit on WOR 710, the voice of New York, and we'll be right back after this commercial message.
Okay. Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Gene Marks on WOR 710, the voice of New York. Gene is a small business expert, and we just had a short discussion. We're going to continue that discussion now. Gene is telling us what he thinks businesses are going to need to do when quarantine ends to kind of fit this new hybrid model or whatever it's going to be.
So, the focusing on employees is, utmost and, of all importance. focusing on cash is also very, very important. Taking advantage. There are many financing and funding programs that are out there that I think that businesses should be well aware of. And I still don't believe, we hear all about the Paycheck Protection Program, which is, I think has been a success and has been, has provided needed funding to a lot of businesses. And even with the new changes, is sort of a godsend for a lot of my clients. But there are other sources of funding as well, guys, that I think business owners should be aware of. This is a show for like inventors and I'm assuming startups. And so that one thing I do want to get across is that the funding that people are saying like, hey, I want to start up my business or I'm inventing something or, I've got whatever, all the big funding options that are out there from the government and state and local, places are really geared towards sort of existing businesses to keep them in business and to keep their employees employed and off of unemployment. So I've had a lot of people on Twitter come to me saying, hey, is there anything out there, any good programs out there for startups because of the pandemic? And, usually my response is really no. I mean, the loans that are out there are for you to stay in business, not to start up a business.
Right. A lot of the loan programs did have deadlines. You had to show that you had been operating a business at least since February.
Correct.
20. And so if you were still at the early stages, you may have qualified for some level of relief. But if you're just starting right now because of the pandemic, then it may be more of a challenge. Or it may be impossible to get any new government money right now. So.
Yeah, right now there's there is money available and you should be aware. There are a couple of secrets though that if you do have you are looking for financing for an existing business, the tax financings. If you have employees, the government is allowing you to defer your employer's payroll tax 50% to the end of 2021 and 50% to the end of 2022. That's that 6.2% FICA tax. That's like a big deal for a lot of it. It's like free financing. You can just push it off, a couple of years. There's a big retention tax credit. I think the big thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is the Small Business Administration has got a thing with their loans. They have what's called a Section 7A loan, which any existing business can apply for. You don't even have to have employees. So existing businesses can do that. But you can use it for working capital. You can use it for if you want to buy property like real estate or a piece of equipment. You can use it to buy a business as well. And the deal the SBA is offering is that if you get one of those loans before September 27th, it's part of the CARES Act, you get your first 6 months of payments and interest forgiven. So if you get like a $500,000 loan, you don't have to pay $33,000. It's just completely forgiven, which is huge for a lot of companies. And it gives you thought if you need it for working capital or you need it to buy inventory or equipment or real estate. It's a potential really big benefit.
That's really great information, and I appreciate you sharing that with our audience. Does that, if you got a PPP loan, are you still eligible for a loan?
Yeah, you are. You can still get that loan. It's a separate loan program. You need to talk to an SBA, Small Business Administration member bank. So if you've got a loan, you got it through a member lender as it is. And the other thing you want to also consider is 57% of business owners today are part of the baby boomer generation. Those that were born between 1946 and 1964. I am not. I'm proud to say I missed it by exactly 1 year. In fact, I was born in February of 65. So please don't call me a baby boomer, okay? I take that as an insult, guys. Sorry. But for that generation, I'm just kidding. There are like more than half of business. I mean, business owners in this country are older than a lot of people think. The average age is over 50 years old. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of companies, a lot of business clients I have that are like, this pandemic was awful. We want out. It is time to sell our business. We've been thinking about retiring, and now, and these SBA loans can be used to finance the acquisition of a business. And there are, what a lot of people are telling me in the industry is that there's going to be a big spike in business owners looking to sell. And there's a lot of younger entrepreneurs and people, millennials, that want to get into a business. And there's no better way, in my opinion, to start up a business than to just buy an existing business that already has some customers and it's got a little bit of, takes you at least to put you in scoring position to start with, which you can then evolve into your own thing. And with this SBA loan program now, the benefits of the CARES Act, you'll get a big discount. Plus, if you buy assets, at least for an existing business, there are tax benefits to do that too. So think about buying a business, even if it's small. It's a great time to do that.
That's a wonderful idea, because if you're an entrepreneur who wants to innovate, you can take that core and innovate away. Like I said,
Yes.
medical device thing, they didn't invent IV lines. They innovated on top of something that was already there.
Yeah, it's such a, people talk about starting up businesses, and ask me questions about it. And like, come on, guys, it's 2020. I mean, most businesses have already been thought of by this point, right? We've had, thousands of years of people running businesses in recorded history, at least. So the odd Facebook will come along or an Elon Musk, but for most of us that are starting up a business, there's probably something similar that's already in operation. And rather than recreating the wheel, if you have the opportunity to buy somebody else's business or buy equity in somebody else's business, controlling equity, and then like you said, Elizabeth, then you've got sort of that infrastructure right there, and then you can bring your ideas to that and build on that. To me, it just makes more sense than just starting something from scratch where you've just got to build everything from nothing. So that should be considered. And again, there's just incentives out there to do that now.
That's really great. I mean, you don't hear that advice very often, and because everybody wants to be creative, they want to express themselves through their work, and they want to, do it their way. But actually, for example, in the life sciences industry, or I should say the life sciences ecosystem, there are a lot of life science startups that start by just providing services to other life science companies, maybe formulating pills for a clinical trial, or creating libraries of compounds for something. A lot of this may not make sense, but the point is that they use the money for that to put into the R&D to develop original products, which
Right.
they really want to do, and it limits the amount of investment money that they have to take. And they can go at their own pace, and they can still do it their own way, but they have this cash flow from sort of the more mundane types of business activities that they can put into building their newer version. And then at the same time, they're gaining valuable industry experience by
It's so true.
services, and they're making connections that can help them with their new next generation products down the road.
Yeah, it's so true. And when you think about starting up a business, it's to buy an existing business that has a revenue stream maybe that can help fund your R&D activities. I mean, that's sort of like the way to go. It's almost like, I know a lot of people that have corporate jobs that want to start up their business, and I always tell them, because I did this, I'm saying, all right, well then you have to give yourself like a 2 to 3 year timeline, and you have to expect you're going to have 2 jobs, your day job and then the business that you're starting, because you don't just quit and then start up a business. You need capital to do that. You need an income stream. So it's the same thing if you want to buy another business. You can buy one that already has an income stream that can help fund some of your R&D. That would be big. And I just know now it's an opportunity to get in there. I think there's a lot of business owners that are looking to sell. They're exhausted by this whole pandemic. Interest rates are rock bottom. There are financing programs available that can be collateralized by these assets that you're buying, so the bankers would be happy. And I think a lot of people that do have some extra cash are you put it in the bank account at 0% interest, or you can put it in the stock market and let somebody else, some other CEO, lose all of your money, or you can keep control of it, and invest it in a business that you can control. And then the other thing, which is, I know it sounds kind of harsh, but there will be a lot of businesses filing for bankruptcy. There are some that were just not managed that great. And, when there's economic downturn, it creates opportunities out of the disruption. And it's kind of a good time to snap up deals. You don't even have to buy. If you're an inventor and you're just looking for lab equipment, or you're looking for something for what you're doing, you should be hunting and pecking around, because there will be plenty of companies that they're in distress. and they need the cash, and they'll sell something at a significant discount. So keep that in mind, because with the downturn, there's opportunities.
Right. There's always those people that seem to be able to see the opportunities and get in there and make a fortune out of anything. And, I think that's excellent advice if you want to be one of those people. Right?
Who doesn't?
Yeah, it's not politically correct because these are the angry capitalists, but
Where can our audience find you?
Best place is on Twitter. So it's at Gene Marks, GENEMARKS. And I've been busy over the past few weeks answering a lot of questions about the Paycheck Protection Program. But I'm on it all the time, so I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the operation of your business or some of these loans that are out there or stuff like that. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just make it up. So either way, you'll get something.
What a great resource. Well, you're listening to Passage to Profit. We have to take a break, but we'll have more of Gene Marks right after this. And then we'll be back with our presenters.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the Voice of New York, with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Gene Marks. Now's my turn to talk about this little project I started right before COVID.
Speaking of startups.
So I started doing, somebody described it, I think, perfectly, kind of doing a mini Passage to Profit. But I started interviewing business owners and then putting those short interviews on a directory, a video directory, which is a website and also a YouTube channel. They go hand in hand. I call it Fireside for Fireside Chat. So Fireside Directory. And, Gene, I did not write the software for this. Our website gal found me this software that just almost works perfectly. It's good enough for proof of concept. And I had somebody reach out to me and say, oh, I could write the software for you. Just give me thousands of dollars. I'm like, well, why? Because, this is, so I'm really taking a bunch of things that already exist and sticking them all together. But organizing people's business videos on a website and a YouTube channel. And I originally was doing the interviews in our studio in Summit, New Jersey. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it actually kind of helped. I hate to say that, but people did not want to be on video. People did not feel comfortable, but then they all were forced to go onto Zoom. So I was able to pivot and do these interviews on Zoom. And people are okay with that. I don't know if I'll go back to in-person really good videos or just do Zoom ones after this is over. I don't know. So I've been doing that, and I've been collecting people, and I've been getting a lot of people interested and excited. So the site is growing, and there's so much work to do. I don't really know how I'm going to do it all, but I've thought of some ways that I can maybe get some help from people. Because there's the tech piece, there's a huge tech piece, but there's also the interviewing piece, and there's the social media or the marketing piece. And as you know, and then of course the accounting piece. And so every business has some sort of pieces like that, right? So as I grow it, I'm going to need to get help, but talking to you about the 7A program might help me. I don't know.
No, that's
it might. By the way, I was just going to say we talked about different opportunities. When you have a downturn, and for better or for worse, I mean, there's a lot of people that are unemployed, and that's a real bad thing. But the good thing is that Elizabeth, if you've got a little bit of cash and you can, bring somebody on a contractual basis or part time to help you, you'd probably be doing a very good thing. And I bet you would probably you've got your pick probably of some very talented people that are out there. So again, the opportunity out of the disruption.
Do you think the 7A would help with that, or am I not far enough along yet?
It depends. You do have to have a history. It is for working capital, not necessarily for startups. So it's not, but what would help with that? I mean, there are other funds for startups, both state and local. New Jersey has some startup, some aid funds that are available for you. And again, it does come down to collateral. So there are, like your bank, if you to get like a working capital loan that could be collateralized by some personal assets. That's something that you can consider. Again, it's a capitalistic economy, so you need capital to build something like that.
Right. We've been doing it on a shoestring so far.
Yep.
Bootstrapping. So. We'll see
Well,
what
it's very good.
happens.
It's a great way for clients, prospective clients, to get to know you before they call you, and it's a great way to communicate what your skills are, or what your products are, and so video, as everyone knows, is the wave of the future, right? So I think it's a great idea,
I do too. I think it's a required thing to have nowadays. So I think that you guys are doing what you need to do.
Thanks. Yeah, and a lot of people want videos, but they don't know where to put them.
Right.
There's a place they can put them. And then if people see you on this video and they like you and they call you, it's a qualified lead because they already know what you're like. So
Great. That's great.
we'll see.
Yep. Very cool.
It's good. So thank you for that. And now it's time for the presenters. And we have 3 presenters with us this evening. We can hardly wait to get to the pitches. Our first one is Anita Komisky. And I have had the extreme pleasure of receiving samples of her product. And I can give it my fullest endorsement because none of it's left. I've eaten it all. So Anita, why don't you tell us what you're up to and tell us about your project.
Well, thank you all very much. We really appreciate having the opportunity to share our story today. I'm the founder of Amelia Toffee, and gosh, we are located here on Amelia Island, Florida, outside of Jacksonville, and our conditions are very different than what you all are experiencing on the East Coast. I listened to Jean, and we have really been open for business for the last couple of weeks. The restaurants and bars are now at 50%, and I think we're probably going to go to 100% very soon. So our world is thousands of miles away from you. So some of what we're doing today, I know that you all will have the chance to experience in the next couple of weeks. We started Amelia Toffee 5 years ago. It started out as just one of those holiday businesses that I thought that I'd make some toffee and sell it to some friends and family. And I was fortunate enough to be part of a program through Jacksonville, and it's called Jack's Bridges Through the Chamber. And they opened my eyes that if I was going to put that kind of effort into a seasonal business, that I might as well turn it into a year-round business. And we all know that it takes just as much energy to run a seasonal business as it does a year-round. So what we are, or why we're different, is there are 2 things. One is that we are uniquely flavored toffee. It's all dark chocolate almond toffee. We like to say that it's tradition with a twist, based off of my grandmother's recipe, and then we've really pushed the envelope on the flavors. We do everything from lavender to licorice to pineapple rum, you name it, and we've experimented with it. We're across the country now in 500 stores. We're on the shelves of Whole Foods. So within a very short period of time, we're feeling very lucky to have the customer base that we do. And just like everyone has, we've experienced some blips over the last couple of weeks, and we've been reinventing, and we came out with a product, reusable wipes with some sanitizing solution, because we couldn't find wipes on the shelf just like everyone else. So we thought that we'd do something that was needed, that we personally endorsed because we were using it in the kitchen. And we have offered that to our customers. And as all of you have talked about, the revenue stream over the last couple of weeks has been challenging for small business. And so we were able to offer something that was unique and was well received and kept us afloat.
Well, I tasted it too. We started with the cherry. I've never seen cherry toffee before. And it's not like saltwater taffy. Like I got it confused. It's not, really, I don't even know if toffee really describes it, right? It's very
kind of like
different.
an almond roca kind of.
Yeah.
Almond roca, that's right, Richard. Or score bar or Heath bar. I am from actually Short Hills, New Jersey, so right down the street from you all, and grew up over at the Short Hills Mall, and there was a very good specialty store there, and they carried a type of toffee called Baracchini, and my grandmother thought that we needed to learn how to make that at home, and that was the start of all of this. So I have been making toffee for 50-something years, and yes, I'm part of that baby boomer generation that Jean mentioned.
I have a question, Anita. You know what surprises me is that you said that your revenues were, a little short, and I've been so bad at predicting what would be popular and what would not be popular during a pandemic. I would have thought that toffee would be selling off the shelves. People are sitting at home just watching TV all day, munching your toffee. Why the shortage?
Well, since I have a deep accounting background, so I'll share some numbers with you that maybe will be interesting to your clients. Our internet business, we beat 2019 by the end of April. So our internet business was off the charts. Where we suffered was we are in about 350 small specialty stores scattered across the country, and those were shuttered. The Whole Foods did well. We're in Harris Teeter in North Carolina. That did well. But when you shut off a good portion of your business through wholesale, we certainly felt it. What we're feeling now is that the economy is starting to come back. We didn't lose any of our employees, and we're thrilled about that, and they were happy to return to work. And especially with a product like ours, it's very important to have those that have a passion for quality and consistency. And so we have the same team that we had since we started, which is remarkable in a food and beverage business. So we're very grateful for that.
Do you think you'll be doubling down on e-commerce based on what you found over the past couple of months?
Great question. Yes, we are featured on Faire.com and one of the top suppliers to Faire. We've added a couple more like Hello Abound, The Good Trends. We're trying to do more in the San Francisco, Chicago market. Oh, and this is interesting. One of the first big markets to come back for us was Dallas. And they have a big desire for sugar, and we're happy to supply it to them.
So, Anita, you say that you are considered fair. So where do you source your ingredients and where do you make your toffee?
We make it on Amelia Island, and we source as many ingredients as we can locally. So we partnered, I mentioned all the flavors that we make. We've partnered with breweries, we've partnered with craft distilleries, we've partnered with a lavender company. So all the ingredients that we use, if they're not locally sourced, they're all natural. It all comes from the US. So we also have a second production site in Savannah, which we use in the holiday season.
So what is the secret to good toffee?
Ours is different. We use a unique cooking process. We use very thin pots so that it heats and it cools very quickly. And since we're in Florida, we have to be very aware of the consistency, and it can't be too hard because tons of those baby boomers are down here and we want everyone to keep their teeth. So we make sure that it's not an extremely hard to bite through.
You don't have to fight this toffee when you're eating it.
No.
It's very easy to chew. So that, I think, even though I, as a baby boomer, speaking as a baby boomer, I consider my teeth to be in pretty good shape, and I can chomp through just about anything, but it's a pleasure to eat. You're not cracking and chomping and fighting it, right?
It's very unlike anything I've had before, and your interesting choice of flavors is amazing. It's almost like craft beer for toffee, right?
Well, it is. And gosh, everyone wants different flavors and everyone is into flavor profiles and pairing. And we thought that this was the perfect place because frankly, with butter and sugar, anything pairs really well with it. There are very few things that don't. And we even did an herbs de Provence toffee recently for a ladies' luncheon. And I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised that it was as good as it is. So butter and sugar are wonderful ingredients.
Was that herbs de Provence?
Lavender and rosemary and thyme. So it's a collection of herbs.
Oh.
So very different than a boozy to a fruity. We went way out on a limb and did a savory.
So what do you think is the secret to your success so far? I mean, I imagine you'll bounce back strongly. What has been the most important thing for your business to be successful?
I think the food business tends to still be a relationship business. There's not a lot of technology on the food side, and I think it's maintaining those one-to-one relationships. Even though I stumbled with the Zoom connection today, people have been connecting, and as Jean was talking about, it's a great way of becoming more intimate. It's a much friendlier way of getting to know your clients. It's almost like they're coming into your living room or dining room. So from a supplier standpoint, customer standpoint, it's broadened and deepened our relationship. So I think that we had that before, but now it's even heightened, and that we will be able to do very well. And one of the other things is our flavors are coming from our suppliers, our distributors, our customers. We respond to what they would like. And I think that that's something that's unique about us.
So we're coming to the end. Jean, did you have any comments or questions?
I just have one other question. I'm curious because you operated through the pandemic. This whole experience is pretty much messed up with your financial numbers, right? I mean, right? So how do you think how are you going to report on that stuff for yourself when you start analyzing how your business is doing? You've had 3 months of like a real, it's almost like you have to pull those numbers out. Will you pull those numbers out? Have you thought about, declassifying all of the COVID related stuff sort of down below your operations line and just focusing on operations? Have you given any of that thought?
Well, that's a great question. And my husband's a CPA and a CFO, so we are probably more numbers driven than most. And yes, I do have a COVID line. We're down about 20% from where we were last year at this time. So overall, I'm dancing around saying hallelujah. That is amazing compared to others. Mm-hmm. I agree with you that the next couple of months are really going to be even more challenging because you don't know. And yes, some of us have some extra cash from the PPP, but that cash goes pretty quickly if there aren't sales. And I think that that's something you mentioned, cash flows. Cash flows are king right now. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be forecasting at 40 to 50% of where you were last year, I think, to maintain a conservative guess as to what's going to happen.
So, well, thank you very much. How can, Anita, how can people find the Amelia Toffee Company?
We are on Facebook and we're on Instagram under Amelia Toffee, and our website is ameliatoffee.com, and we'd love to share some of our goodness with all of you.
And it is good.
So this is Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, our special guest this evening, Jean Marks. We'll be right back after this message.
Welcome back, listeners. You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show.
Wait, I want some more toffee.
I think
We're
we
going to
should
take
buy
a
it from
long
Anita.
break, and I'll be right back after I go home. So.
Yes, the last presenter was Anita with some toffee, and before her was Jean Marks, who's a small business expert who had some great advice, really good advice for getting money for your small business, small to medium-sized business if you need it right now. So go back and listen. The podcast will be out. You can find it on the Passage to Profit YouTube channel. But now we're on to our second presenter, and we have third presenters too. So all of these presentations are fabulous. Listen to them. These are all businesses that people want or need, and I just think this is fantastic. So now we have Jess Zaino with Omni. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Jean, what you're saying is so helpful. And to Anita, I am hoping to get some toffee as soon as I get off of this this call. So I'm the founder and CEO of OmniCo. It's a family care solution for corporate America. And what that means is I work with individual companies to build out and manage a safe infant care or child facility within the workplace with an adjacent wellness space and parent amenities so that working parents can bring their children back to the office as an employer-sponsored wellness benefit. So in 2015, I was working as a television producer and gave birth to my son, my first son. And as a person who worked her whole life, I expected to go right back to work. I was the breadwinner in my family. My parents were in New York, so I didn't have the family help. And it was a necessity for me to work. And I was really surprised and disappointed that there was no support for a working mother executive in the public or private sector. So I created and co-founded the Jane Club, a shared workspace with on-site, childcare in Los Angeles. And after 2 years of operation and several national Jane Club pop-ups in Texas and New Orleans, and a recent emergency childcare relief mission that I mobilized in Los Angeles in response to COVID, I'm now working directly with the companies to create a short or long-term family solution within the workplace as we begin to return to the office.
That is fabulous. I wish that had been there when I had my kids. I really feel like from things I've been reading and seeing is the companies that do go above and beyond for their employees are going to be the companies that get the best people.
Yes, I think that I'm using this not only for the employers who need to retain their employee, but also retain the cost. So for a woman or a man to leave on family and medical leave, it's essentially $90,000 per employee. And when it's an executive woman or man, it goes up 215%. So companies are losing upwards of $300,000, $500,000, sometimes in cases of a larger corporation, over $1 million. So they contract with me to provide a safe return to the office with babies, what started as 0 to 16 months. And as I said, an employer-sponsored wellness benefit. So the employer is now paying the financial burden for the parent, but that in turn is retaining cost for the employer, retaining the cost, retaining the employee, and attracting the new employees. And then you have to imagine that for the employee, this is a beautiful social impact that will keep the parent with their child for that 16 months paid for by the company. So it is that financial and emotional burden that they don't suffer. And so that a woman doesn't need to say, am I going back to work? How do I go back to work? How do I say I have to leave because my kid has X, Y, and Z? And I'm so passionate about it because I am the pain point, and that is what this business grew from.
Is your business model to actually run the centers for the company? Is that what you're doing? So you're going to the companies and you're providing them with this information, and you're encouraging them to set up the center, and then your company will identify an appropriate location and take the steps necessary to actually put the center together in a way that makes sense for the company.
Yeah, so I'm a third-party contractor or a vendor, and I work with human resources mostly. And with human resources, we identify that space within the office that works, usually a conference room or an extra office space, or in if it's a large office, it might have a floor. So we work with general assumption, 1,000 square feet. And we, Omnico comes in and refits with an architect the space. So we soundproof it and create the infant care facility or children facility with an adjacent, as I said, wellness space, so that a parent has time to either just stop down as they return to work. It's a gentle return to work. You can breastfeed in private. You can just take a time to maybe close your eyes while you're sitting at your laptop. As we know, as new parents, we're exhausted. As parents, we're exhausted. And so I manage that space. Omnico manages the space. We hire the caretakers, we insure, we permit, and we manage. So it is a contract, much like a valet or an on-site gym. We are on-site family care.
So, Jess, there are a lot of incentives. There are so many incentives to employers, but some of the bigger ones are also some tax deductions and credits that they get for doing that as well. Are you familiar with all of those?
Yeah, there's so much benefit to actually integrating this. And I think that corporate America is so fast and moving so fast that they don't stop down to say, oh, we can actually do something like this for our employees and our future employees. So it really is a plug and play. And it's innovation, it's disruption. And certainly in this time where we have to figure out what the new normal is for the workplace in a post-pandemic world, I think that I'm in a unique opportunity. This is an entry point for me.
So you're mostly dealing with mostly larger companies, would you say, like corporations? I mean, do you have many clients that are smaller businesses, say less than 200 employees?
I'm in Los Angeles, so I'm having a conversation with a well-known production company who wants to integrate this onto their production facility campus.
Right.
And then I'm having conversations with large hospitals who want to integrate it into their, 13 SoCal locations.
A lot of small companies have these needs and they can't afford to do it themselves, or maybe they don't have the space. And it would be great, as your business evolves, just to come up with a model where maybe like a few companies in a corporate center, or in a co-working space could share the costs of doing this. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential there.
Thank you.
So in terms of running these centers, what kinds of things have you learned about being sort of in the childcare business, is a way to say, okay, what are some of the key learnings that you'd like to share with our audience?
I think that people are really wanting to find that balance between work and life. And it shouldn't be a question whether a young woman wants to start a family and have a career. And so I find that people who take part in this business, it's a sigh of relief. I really see that sigh of relief. I've seen women cry because they feel like they now have a sense of support, a nurturing sense of support, and an option. I find that people really love their children and they want a safe space. So we have to ensure the highest safety and comfort for children and make sure their children are being enriched in some way and not just in front of a tablet. But really, I mean, again, as I said earlier, I'm working from my own pain point. So this is really for the, just for the nurturing and support of the working parent. Like, I love the kids, but I'm trying to do it for the moms, really.
Right.
The dads, I mean, I think there are a lot of dads that would like more time closer to their kids, right?
Yeah. Correct. And also, it's not so much that the kid is sitting at the desk. There is a separate space. It's soundproofed, so there's no disruption at the office. And the parent can dip in or dip out whenever they'd like. The idea is, though, that you don't have to rush out at 3:00 or call in 3 times a week if you're not working. Or there's a multitude of reasons to be able to now balance your work and family life that can work successfully within the workplace.
Do you have any data yet from any of these on employee retention or cost reduction, or is this too new for that yet?
Too new for that, but there are businesses doing it. So someone like a JP Morgan who has something on site retains 110% of their employees through this program. And another company is Patagonia that has for many, many decades and years been actually having an on-site childcare program.
Just as so let's talk about COVID now. I mean, how is all of this going to impact your model as companies are bringing back people? What's going on in LA, by the way? I mean, is LA open for business now?
No, so we are fully still shut for business.
Right.
In fact, I'm right central Los Angeles. My neighborhood is boarded up,
Right.
and it's been obviously it's significant for everyone and for the country. And here we're really feeling it in Los Angeles, so we're closed. My sister is also a founder of a company in New York, and when COVID hit, she said, "How can you use your resources for Omni? Like, how can you use your resources and expertise of Omni to support the essential workers?" And so I launched a GoFundMe campaign and raised several $1,000s to create an emergency child care center, a drop-off center that provided me free child care for the essential medical workers. And we did that for the month of May. We gave free child care to the doctors and nurses to the local Los Angeles hospitals.
That's amazing. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you so much for doing this, Jess. Oh my gosh, you are truly a visionary. And I hope that all these companies jump on board with you, because what a difference for parents.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Find us. We're at OmniCo, which is AHMNI, omni.co.
Great.
That's great. So you're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and our special guest this evening, Gene Marks. Gene and Elizabeth and I will be back with our next presenter right after this message. Well, welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And for our third and final pitch this evening, we have Marty and Brent Mickelson from the company Go Chuckle. So, guys, take it away.
Thank you, Richard and Elizabeth. We are Marty and Brent Mickelson. We're brothers. Marty has a strong computer background, and I have a background in finance. We're both dads of game-loving families, and my kids love watching cooking and baking shows. And that's really where the idea for Hasty Baker was born. We saw this niche to fill, a chance to make a game that simulates a baking competition. And so that's what Hasty Baker is. It's a race to collect ingredients to complete your recipe before your opponents complete theirs, or before they sabotage you by spoiling your ingredients, stealing ingredients, forcing you to make a double batch, or something like that.
Olin from cooking shows, I see.
Our daughter loved those shows. We
So
were.
do my kids. They love those shows.
And so officially we started our business, Go Chuckle LLC, just over a year ago. Then in September of 2019, we launched a Kickstarter campaign, and it was very successful. By mid-December, we were able to get our game on Amazon and selling for the last part of the Christmas season. Everything's been going great since then. And now, in addition to being available on Amazon, Hasty Baker is also available in a handful of stores in the Northwest. And through our distributor, it's also available throughout Canada. As a company, our goal is of all ages together to make lasting memories off screens. We love to add some elements of educational value to the games in a way that's still fun for kids and adults. And we plan to continue doing this as we work on future games. It's really just our passion to create these things that bring people together, to have fun together. And it's been a lot of fun for us too.
And I guess you're chuckling all the way to the bank as well.
Are you in Canada?
We're located in Washington.
I'm on the Seattle side, on actually an island, Vashon Island.
Okay.
And Brent is in Spokane, which is the other side of the state.
I looked on your website, I have to admit, because I was very curious what this was. And you have coloring books. Like you're really expanding this out too. It looks really fun. So what age, you said all ages. So is this more like a family game, everybody getting together?
It's meant to be for the whole family. We really wanted to make a game that was not just, Candyland or whatever, where the kids want to play and the adults, okay, I guess I will. This is really fun for the whole family. We say on the box it's ages 7 and up, but honestly, we've had reviews and comments from people saying that their kids as young as 4 pick it up pretty quick and can play. And there's ways you could modify the game, taking out the strategy cards and stuff to make it even simpler. So we try to make everything in the game, the graphics and all, illustrations, very fun and colorful, so the kids love it. And it's not a game of chance. There's a lot of strategy involved in making your recipes, and so.
And we had one reviewer leave a comment saying that even for her very, very young children, she would pull the strategy cards out and just make it into a game of memory, because the illustrations are just so fun that, that was a way that she could really make it for even her smallest kids to just still enjoy it.
How did you guys get into this? Are you guys both cooks or bakers or just big eaters?
Well, it really started because when we were watching some of those baking shows with my kids and Kids Baking Championship, my daughter wants to be on there someday. And so, but, and then we were thinking about it, and it's like, this sounds like a game where you have to collect your ingredients to score the recipe, and then somebody plays a double batch, and now you have to collect double the ingredients, or somebody spoils your ingredients, so you have to play it again. And it just felt right. And we kind of looked around, and there wasn't anything quite like this out there. And so we created it and started playing it, and it was a blast.
Have you ever thought about approaching the Food Network, or, it's out there, and if it's a game-based or kind of close to one of those shows, maybe they have an interest in partnering with you or helping to distribute it?
Absolutely. Please, if you're listening.
I don't mean to speak out of turn, but I'm a food television producer. That was my day trade, and I've worked on all.
Well, nice.
So I
to
think
meet
we
you.
should all get off and you guys should be hooking up with Jess after this call, right?
Do you have the weird, like on some of these cooking shows, there's ingredients I've never heard of. Is it weird ingredients, or do you just have like your basic vanilla, butter, sugar, flour?
We try to keep it's simple. It's flour, sugar, butter, milk, eggs, berries.
You have a lot of room for expansion though, because you could make different types, right? So you could make vegetable recipes or whatever, right? I could see you going way out with this, adding card decks to the basic game, right?
Vegetable recipes don't sound like much.
No, not that.
Not for the kids.
Well,
Yeah.
so amazing, because I'm constantly amazed at the number of cooking shows on television, and what great ratings they get and how fascinating they are for people. I guess television has evolved to the point where it's actually more entertaining to watch somebody cook than to actually cook yourself, right?
Right.
And so I guess if, you're sitting there eating your quarter pounder or something and watching the Iron Chef whip up this magnificent meal, and now we've taken it a step further. You're looking into the future, and now you're creating games. So.
If I can jump in, listen, it's all fun and games, guys. But are we making any money at this? Do we have day jobs to support ourselves? How is this all working?
We've actually been doing really well. Usually in the game industry, the Christmas season is like what funds the entire year. Mm-hmm. And, and then you have slow sales throughout the rest of the year. But, unfortunately for the pandemic, but fortunate for us, a lot of people are at home and they need things to do. And this is a positive thing that, is fun, brings the family together, and, can kind of take your mind off the bad things. And so we've actually seen decent sales throughout this, enough so that we had to get an order in earlier than we thought for more games to stock up in Amazon.
We're coming to the end, but I just want to ask real quick. So did you do GoFundMe where you took pre-orders and then used the money to make the game?
Yeah, we did that through Kickstarter. And so, we had a 1-month campaign where the people could back our project. And then at the end of that month, they would pay for it, and then we took that, and we already had it planned up, who we were going to use, how we were going to get them produced, and we just took that at the end of the campaign and just told the producer to go with it.
So you had the funds before you really did a full-scale production, which is the best way to do a consumer product if you can. Yeah, so great. Well, we've come to the end of our time. I'm really going to have to check this out. I'm just wondering too, can you actually cook these recipes at home if you want to?
Well, we don't recommend putting like a bag of sugar in with a sack of flour, but they are based off of real ingredients.
Yeah. So what's your website? Where can people find this?
This is hastybaker.com, and we're on Facebook and Instagram. But yeah, you can go to hastybaker.com and get the link to the Amazon page, which is the main place that people can get it all over the country. So yeah, check it out.
And like you mentioned, Elizabeth, we do have our illustrator did such a fantastic job. The pictures are just so fun that we told him to go ahead and draw them as coloring pages as well, so that we could make that available to people. And our entire coloring book of all of these great illustrations is available for free on our website as well, so that people have something that their kids could do while they're stuck at home.
Nice, very nice. Well, thank you very much. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WR 710 iHeartRadio.
Thanks, everyone. We've had a wonderful show this evening, haven't we?
We really have. I want to say thanks to everybody who came, and I want to run through their websites one more time.
Sure.
So we had Anita with this just fabulous toffee. I've never tasted anything like it.
Yum, yum,
yum. AmeliaToffee.com. It's Amelia for Amelia Island. And then we had Jess with Omni, AHMNI.co, which is just fabulous. I mean, a way for corporations to retain employees with young children and employees to keep working. I love it. I love it. Love it.
Improving family relationships.
Right. And then we had Marty and Brent Mickelson with hastybaker.com and their game Go Chuckle, where it's based after cooking shows and kids just go crazy. If your kids watch a cooking shows, you want this game.
But they're not real recipes, so don't try it at home.
Yeah. And then our guest was Gene Marks, who you can find at genemarks.com. And if you have a small or medium-sized business and need some help, definitely reach out to Gene. He's excellent, and he's excellent at helping people find money.
Absolutely. So much great content from everybody today. And Gene, such a pleasure to have you on. I really enjoy having you, and you always bring out things that I think are really great for our audience. So
No, I appreciate that, guy. This was definitely in the top 100 of your shows, I have to say. So it was excellent. And my takeaways from our guest today is that I can sit at home playing Hasty Baker. I could be chomping on some of Amelia's toffee, and just to look after my kids. Did I get everything that I needed to get from this? Right? One of the great things is that can we all just take a step back and remember that we are talking now, we are not done with this pandemic. There could be a second wave. I mean, we're in the middle of it all right now. We will look back even on June of 2020 and be like, oh my God, do you remember that hot mess that we were involved in? And in the middle of all of that, we have two guys that have invented a game that they're growing with it. You've got this wonderful woman down in Florida who is making toffee and selling it around the country, around the world probably. I forgot to ask Anita if that's the case. But I mean, just, right, a great company. You got Jess, who's running this growing company with a really innovative idea for providing childcare for corporations. I mean, something that, talk about filling like a market need. So, it will be fine. The country will be fine. The economy will be fine. And entrepreneurism will be fine as well. And talking with these guys makes me feel a lot better about the world.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, the world will never be the same. And we've learned so much, and we're going in new directions now. And entrepreneurs and small businesses are leading the charge.
Agreed.
And I just have to give a shout out to our producer, Noah Fleischman at iHeart, who takes these less than perfect Zoom recordings and turns them into a radio show that is good enough to air on iHeartRadio in New York City and on the app and worldwide online. So thank you, Noah. We know this is difficult for you and that it doesn't meet your quality standards because he is really a perfectionist. But thank you for allowing us to have new content during these times any way we can get it.
And thank you to Kenya Gibson, too, our media maven, and all of the folks at iHeartMedia for their continued support during these COVID times. And you're listening to Passage to Profit on WOR. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart with Passage to Profit signing off. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.